Today is September 19th, 2024. I'm Gabriele Fellows with the Museums of Lake County, and this is an oral history interview with Kevin Ness. Kevin, thank you for being here today.
My pleasure.
So to get started, what can you tell us about your name? Were you named after anyone?
Not that I know of. Long time ago in the Oakland Tribune, there were some comics, and one of them was Kevin the Bold, and it was probably about the time I was born, and my mom probably grabbed that out of the paper. And that's my idea. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. And what is your date of birth and how old are you?
It was October 9th, 1956, and I'm currently 67.
And where were you born and raised?
I was born in Lakeport, California at Lakeside Hospital, which was located on Lakeshore Boulevard in Lakeport. The building's still there, but is now a rest home. The current hospital is just up the hill from it. And I was raised in Clearlake Highlands. It was back Clearlake Highlands in those days. And I grew up there and went to Burns Valley School in my kindergarten year. And then I went to Seventh-day Adventist school for my first and second grade, and went back to Burns Valley School in third grade through sixth grade, and then was transferred to Lower Lake Junior High back in those days, which is just up from Lower Lake High School.
And what were your parents' names?
My dad's name was Gordon Elmer Ness, and he was Norwegian. My mom is Muriel Clark Ness, Clark with an E. And anyway, I'm not completely sure of her nationality. Scotch-Irish, probably.
And do you have any siblings?
I had 4 siblings. The oldest was Gordon Eric Ness. He's now deceased. Right under him was my sister Lorraine Ann Ness, and she is now deceased. Then I was the third, and my brother Ron, which is still alive, is Ronald Russell Ness. And my youngest brother, which is now deceased, is Robert Glenn Ness.
What does Ron do for a living?
Ron is currently on disability. He's about almost 2 years younger than me.
And who is the oldest ancestor you know about?
The oldest ancestor still living?
Or dead?
Or dead? That I knew personally?
That you know a history about?
Probably a great-grandmother, great-great-grandmother. I don't know whether she was great-grandmother or great-great-grandmother. And my mom's family back then lived in Missouri. And my grandmother, I don't know what her name was, but her name was probably Clark with an E. And from what I was told from my mom's uncle, she was a plantation owner in Missouri. She had 40 slaves, and when the proclamation came along to free the slaves in the 1860s, could be 1862, something like that, she came out of the house and says, "I don't know what to do with you, but you can all go." And they all looked at each other and says, we know nothing about living anywhere else, so we want to stay here with you.
Oh.
So that's what I know from that.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And where did your ancestors migrate from?
My dad's family migrated from Norway and first came here in 1903, and they were from Oslo, Norway, as far as I know. My grandfather was an orphan. He didn't actually know his last name. His name was Andrew Ness, so that's how my middle name came about. And anyway, he took her name, which is Ness, and they decided to move to the U.S., and they were looking at the economy of the U.S. back in the late 1800s, early 1900s. My grandfather came over, and he went up into Canada and got to a county called Tuttle County in North Dakota. And when he found a job that he could work, he went back to Norway and got my grandmother, and they moved back, and they stayed in Norway from 1903 until 1925.
Okay. And describe the neighborhood or community you grew up in.
Neighborhood I grew up in is only probably a mile from the house that I live in currently. It's on Old Highway 53 in Clearlake Highlands. And it's right across the street from the Rutke Chicken Egg Ranch, and which is still there. And then there was a horse ranch next door, which is not there anymore. And I grew up in the same house from 1958 to 1975 when I moved out to go to college.
And what does your father do for a living?
My dad was a watchmaker, was trained, and I still have his diploma in Sacramento in 1946. And he was a watchmaker on K Street in Sacramento. And my family was all in Sacramento, and in 1947, I believe him and my mom got married in Reno, and they decided to move to Ukiah in 1947 or 1948. Mm-hmm. They get to Ukiah, and they're hanging out in the Palace Hotel, which is on State Street in Ukiah, and they're at the bar, and a man walks in, and my dad hears him talking, and he owned most of the shops in Ukiah. So my dad says, "Hey, I'm looking for a shop I can rent. I have a watchmaking shop I'd like to set up." The man looked at him and says, "I have no shops currently because all the veterans that lived in Ukiah came back home and set up shop in all the little shops, and I probably won't have anything until probably about 3 months." So they came back to Clearlake, and they settled temporarily in Lower Lake, and Dad set up his watchmaking shop for free, in which was back then the Locker Plant building, which is just a block away from where I'm sitting. It's now the candle factory, and they let him set up shop in the upstairs part, which is still there. It survived all the fire we have had. Mm-hmm. And they lived in the old Tremper house, which was a stage stop house just on the other side of Siegler Creek on Highway 29. And Dad would work on the outside, painting and doing the yard. And my mom would clean the house and all the rooms and things. And that was their rent.
Oh. They
stayed there for about 6 months and found a little shop in Clearlake Highlands for $25 a month, right across the street from Calder's Log Cabins on Lakeshore Drive. Mom said when they first opened, they had just paved Lakeshore Drive in Clearlake Highlands, and sooner or later a cow would walk by, and then the farmer looking for his cow. Cow went that way. Okay. So they stayed in that shop for 19 years. And then there was a shop that came up for sale that was a former bakery in Clearlake next to the Economy Food Market in 1966. So they bought it. And when we first went in there, complete bakery, turnkey bakery, oven, still there, gigantic oven, baked bread, all the donut machine, pastries, all the racks, cash register, everything's still there. So we moved in. Dad gave away a lot of the stuff. Still has the oven. It's still in there. Still works. And we moved in there just after Christmas of '66. So we moved in January of '67, and we've been in that building ever since.
So your mom worked at the shop with your dad?
Yeah, Mom worked at the shop.
What did she do?
She was the secretary and business owner also. She did all the books and paid taxes, insurance. My dad ran the front room, did the watches, and did some jewelry appraising. And then in the late 50s, also took on trophies and engraving, because in Lake County, you can't survive on one thing alone usually, especially in the days like that. So anyway, which we still do. I still do trophies. I just got done doing 2 of Maharaja skis engraving. So anyway, do a lot of trophies, mainly for car shows and things. I remember in fall of 1964, a man walks into the shop and he says, I'm the new football coach at Clearlake High School. My name is Gordon Sadler. And he says, I want to talk to you about trophies. And I looked at the man and he was thin, not knowing that he would eventually be my PE coach and my algebra coach also. Back in those days, teachers did many, many things.
Wow.
And he was, the football coach. So anyway, I got to meet him.
Neat.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me some more about your parents.
Oh, my parents were very active. They stayed in Clearlake Highlands because they changed their mind and moved to Ukiah, even though my grandfather wanted them there because that's where he was living at the time. So they joined the Lakeshore Lions Club. Dad did. Mom joined later on the Lakeshore Lioness Club, and she was a charter member. They joined the Chamber of Commerce, the Clearlake Chamber of Commerce, probably in the late 40s. We're still members to this day. I am a past president and past board member of that. Dad was also in the Clearlake Masonic Lodge and was never really an officer. He didn't really have time because of all the things he did. So they would put on the parades for the Lions Club with the Redbud Parade, which still operates to this day. And Dad and Mom worked 6 days a week and didn't really get out to do a whole lot. They were so busy doing things around town and running the store. And they always told me, you got to be here 6 days a week. You can't take any time off. You got to do this. And anyway, they were just glued to the store.
So what are some of your earliest childhood memories?
Earliest childhood memories, probably about 1960. Playing in the yard in front of our house on Old 53. We had a great big lawn. It also had Burns Valley Creek right behind the house, and I probably spent every day of the year in that creek. I'd come out with my pants and feet and shoes all wet, and whether it was wintertime, summertime, didn't matter. Hunt pollywogs, and then there was plenty of places to hike. We could ride our bikes safely everywhere. I used to ride my bicycle to the Seventh-day Adventist School in 1963. I was probably 7 years old, driving down Olympic Drive on my bicycle. Speed limit in those days was 65 miles an hour on Olympic Drive in Clearlake Highlands.
Oh.
So lots of fun out there. It was grew up in the country. We grew walnuts. So we all had to work in the walnuts. The time I was 12 years old, I was driving my dad's El Camino, hauling the walnuts to the Bartram dehydrating plant. 12 years old, can't see over the steering wheel, but when your parents are depression parents, they don't care how old you are, you can do anything, whether you had a license or not. So we did a lot of work in the orchards.
And what stories have been passed down in your family?
Oh gosh. My mom went to Weaverville High School in Weaverville, which is in Trinity County, California. And they lived way up in the mountain where there was no electricity. It was probably BLM land, and they built a house up there and lived off the land. And she would tell me about adventures, things that they used to do up there. And my dad lived in Rumsey, which is in the Capay Valley on Highway 16 in Yolo County. He went to Esparto High School, and anyways, I don't know why, but they just loved small towns, small areas, whether it was the parents that just didn't want, my grandparents maybe just didn't want to be out and to be seen anywhere. I don't know that. Very mysterious, but my parents, when they got out of high school, World War II was just breaking out. So everybody wanted to join the service because nobody had any money, and it was a way to make money and help your country. My mom joined the Marines in 1941 after she got out of Weaverville High School. So that was in Sacramento at that time. My dad tried to enlist for the Navy. He weighed 98 pounds, and you had to be 100 pounds in order to get in. So they rejected him, and he was not happy. So he finds the greengrocer on one of the streets in Sacramento, and he sees all these bananas. So he buys about 8 bananas, and he took them back, ate those bananas, went back to the Navy where they were signing you up, stepped on the scale, and they said, "You're our man." So, okay, he gets enlisted. So here's this great big swimming pool, and here's all these young men standing around the pool, and the leader of whoever, the commander at that point, says, "All you guys jump in the pool." So Dad jumps in the pool and looks up. About 2/3 of all the young men standing around the pool did not get in the pool. "What's the matter with you guys? We don't swim."
Oh, no.
"You're going to join the Navy and you can't swim?" And that was the way it was.
Oh, wow.
He found out most kids couldn't swim. So he always swam up and down Cache Creek on Highway 16. And he said the only thing we had to watch out for were underwater barbed wire fences. So I recently, about a year ago, got a picture from one of my cousins, Deanna Santoro, and she lives in Orange County, sent me a picture of my Aunt Agnes. She and 2 other young ladies, they probably were 16 years old, standing on a dirt road in Yolo County, declaring it the Yolo Lake County Highway. In the middle of the picture is the governor. Merriman was his name. This was August 1934. 3 ladies on his right-hand side were from Lake County. 2 of them were from the Clearlake Yacht Club. One of them was Miss Lake County. Her last name was Behrens, Behrens, from Kelseyville.
Oh, okay.
So my Aunt Agnes got to do the ribbon cutting for which is now Highway 16.
Oh, wow.
Pretty cool. So since I'm a member of the Historical Society, I turned that picture into the Lake County Historical Society, which they love because they didn't have it. So it's now in the archives of the Historical Society.
So did you have a best friend as a kid?
I really didn't have a best friend because about every year you would change best friends. So I probably had about 10 different best friends, all of them about my age, all grew up the same way. Most of the kids were farmers' kids. One of my best friends was his parents had a rabbit farm on Old Highway 53, which is now Ogling Canyon Road. And I've had friends that had bait shops. Their families had bait shops, body shops, mechanic shops. A lot of friends. Still have many of those friends to this day.
And did you have any pets as a child?
My first dog was named Heidi. She was a lab mixed with collie. And that was probably when I was in 3rd grade, probably in 1965. And that was my first dog that I can remember. And we didn't have chickens, but we had a horse. My sister rode the horse. Probably had a pet rabbit or so. But living out in the woods, kind of like, there were a lot of wild animals. So we had cats, and a lot of them were dropped off by cars. We probably had several dogs. One dog that I can remember, her name was Trixie, and she was my dad's dog. She was a fox terrier. And one day my dad was roofing the Catholic church in Clearlake, which was Clearlake Highlands, probably about 1956 or 57 when the church was built. He's on the roof putting the shingles on the roof. He probably was doing that for extra money. So he had his ladder up against the roof. He looked over, and Trixie has climbed the top of the ladder.
Oh.
Probably talking 35 feet
Whoa.
up this ladder. She got to the top, and he sees her, and he ran down to grab her in case she fell. He missed her, and she did fall. She fell down, landed on her back. She got up, she shook it off. She was fine.
Wow.
But she looked at the ladder and says, no more ladders. I'm probably 7 or 8 years old, and I think I've had it with ladders. So, yeah, that was one kind of funny story.
And what was your favorite subject in school?
My favorite subject, I had a teacher named Mr. Gleed, Dick Gleed. He was the woodshop teacher, which I liked. But after he was done doing the woodshop classes, about 11 o'clock in the morning, he would go up to the main building at Lower Lake High School, and he taught mechanical drawing. So I took 3 years of mechanical drawing and drafting, which I really, really liked. I was able to build my garage just after my drafting skills some years back, but that was my favorite class. This was in the old high school building, which is now the district office.
Mm-hmm. So how has the world changed since you were young?
Just a whole lot more people here. A lot of the people are still here. A lot of new people, and of course I work with the public, and I get to meet new people every day, and we still have people that we've been waiting on since the 1950s that are still our customers to this day.
Did you have any goals or dreams for when you grew up?
Well, after high school, I signed up to Butte College, which is about 15 miles southeast of Chico, and I signed up, and that was in September of 1975, and I took automotive classes, which I really, really, really liked. So you got to work on cars. You didn't make any money doing it, but the cars you were working on were usually teachers' cars, instructors' cars, or friends, and you just learned how to work on the cars as if you were working on them professionally, and that was fun. So one of the teachers was a coach, and he was a football coach at Butte College, and he drove about a 73 Country Squire station wagon with the wood on the side, and I would work on his brakes and things like that. And one day I decided to take his car out and test drive it around the college, which was a whole square mile, and I accidentally broke his motor mounts. So I came up to him and told him, "You have broken motor mounts," and he goes, "I wonder how that happened." So I changed the motor mounts, and later on when I left school, this student that came to Butte College years later, his name was Aaron Rodgers, and he liked football. I believe that coach coached Aaron Rodgers at Butte College, and Cal Berkeley looked at Aaron Rodgers and drafted him to play for the Bears at Berkeley. Aaron Rodgers went on to play for the Green Bay Packers as their quarterback, Super Bowl quarterback. So I felt like, wow, I played on the field before Aaron Rodgers did. Mm-hmm. So that was one memory. I worked in a jewelry store for a job on Broadway Street in Chico for 2 years. Then in 1977, I came back to help my dad. His health was failing. And I came back to Clearlake Highlands and worked for them, pretty much doing what I do now. He taught me diamond appraising. I went off to GIA, which is the Gemological Institute of America. That was in Santa Monica. I learned gem identification and eventually diamond appraising, which I do to this day.
So talk a little bit about the family business. Why did you take it over, and what year was that?
My dad passed away in 1985, and that's when I got active with the Chamber of Commerce to help build business. So anyway, that was tough. My mom was not herself after my dad passed away, and working with her was very difficult. And eventually she had a stroke in 1991, and she passed away. we closed the shop for about 2 years, and I went to work for another little shop up the street. Still kept my engraving and watch batteries. And October 27th of 1993, I restarted the shop, and I named it Kevin Ness Jewelers, was formerly Gordon Ness Jewelers. And I'm still doing the same thing today.
How many employees do you have?
I currently have a friend that is, she's former banker, former bank manager. And I have also a jeweler, and he's kind of a manufacturing jeweler, and he sets diamonds. He's very good. He's worked with me since June of 1996. He's Mexican, and he came over the border a long time ago, but now he is an American citizen. Very proud of him. He's very good. And those are the only two that I have working there right now besides myself. So it's not easy for just 3 people, but it's what we do, and I think we do a good job.
How many hours a week do you work?
I work 44 hours a week. I work 11 hours a day on the average. I work Tuesday through Friday. I take Saturday, Sunday, and Monday off for various reasons. I lost my wife almost exactly 6 months ago, March 21st of 2024, and she died of cancer, and that's been extremely hard. But the show must go on.
What was your wife's name?
My wife was Karen Lynn, and she was Dawson. And of course, when we got married in 1997, she became Karen Lynn Ness.
And do you have any children?
I have 2 children of my own from a previous marriage, Vivian. Her stepdad was Bill Diener, former Lower Lake fire chief, and we divorced in 1991. And I knew Karen since we were little kids growing up in Burns Valley, Clearlake Highlands. We used to ride the school bus together, so we started dating a little bit. She had 2 children, and she lived by herself with the kids, and eventually moved in with me in 1995, October. And so then we became a family of 6, and most of them lived with me, and sometimes they stayed with their parents on weekends and things like that. And my oldest son is Richard Andrew Ness. He lives in Sacramento. I'm not exactly sure what he does for a living, but he does like to work on cars, and he's raising animals. My daughter is Melody Jennifer Ness, and she is currently married to Dean Prater, which was a Middletown student. They have 2 children, a boy and a girl. She is currently a emergency room nurse at the Adventist Health Hospital in Clearlake. She's also the infectious disease prevention officer in Clearlake. Dean Prater is the head detective for the Lake County Sheriff. My stepkids, Erin, which was Erin Brin, that was her family name. She's Erin Yankee now, and she is now an oncology nurse for Kaiser, married to one of the head nurses, Wayne Yankee, at Kaiser, and they're both in Santa Rosa. And anyway, I've been blessed with great kids. Having 3 nurses in the family has been very special and comforting. So anyway, and Erin has 1 child, and she's my oldest granddaughter, and she's Tori, and she is turning 17 years old.
Do you have any stories about when your children were young?
My oldest boy, Richard, we decided to have him at Santa Rosa Community Hospital. This was June 21st of 1983. We got in the car, driving over St. Helena, and my wife Vivian was going into labor right then. On the floor of the car, we barely made it to the hospital. We beat the nurse that usually would help us with delivery. So they wouldn't let her in the ER. They wouldn't let her in the delivery room. So he was born at 6 p.m., June 21st, 1983. So that, we were glad that he wasn't born on Mount St. Helena. So Melody, my daughter, her mom, which had been sick, real sick with morning sickness for 9 months, in and out of the hospital. And then July 19th, 1987, Sunday morning, she goes into labor at 7 a.m. We decide to have that baby here at which was Redbud Hospital in those days. And we go into the ER, and our regular doctor was there, and he goes, "We better hurry and go right into the delivery room because I know how you are." At 10 o'clock, Melody was born. So we're sitting in the delivery room and everything, and he's checking her out, making sure she's okay, and he sits in the room with us, and then we tune on Oakland A's game and watch the A's game. I went and got us sandwiches, so we're watching the game and eating sandwiches. The game ends at 4 p.m. on that same Sunday. He looks up and down the hallway and he goes, "I don't know why you guys can't just go home." So on the way home, we're in a 73 Mercury Comet, and we're on Highway 53 getting ready to get to our house. And I'm following a box truck, and he's sitting on the highway for some reason, and he takes off, and there was a street called Davis Street, which takes you to the Lake County landfill, and this car didn't see us, and it pulled out in front of us. No. And luckily I knew the car was there, and I kept my foot on the brake, and he didn't see us until he was in our lane, and he thought that we were probably going 55, and it would have hit his door and probably would have killed him and maybe us too, but I had sense enough to put my foot on the brake and not do that. And that was Melody's first ride. She was only, 6.5 hours old. We could have been in a fatal car accident, but we made it home safely.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Thank God.
Yeah. So what are some of the challenges of being a small business owner?
The challenges of being a small business owner, you have to do, and you have to be able to do just about everything that we do. You have to sell, you have to gift wrap. I do diamond appraising, I do engraving. I started engraving in 1968 when I was 12, professionally. Still do that, did some this morning. I still do a lot of watch batteries. I do everything, and everybody just, the whole community just loves us for being there still, because we're now the oldest business in Clearlake Highlands. And so a lot of challenges. You got to take care of the building yourself. I used to get up on it and roof it. I used to get on the roof and do things to it. I stay the heck off of ladders anymore. So I have to have somebody help me do all that. But I still clean everything. I still vacuum. I still keep all the stock clean. We sell gift wares. We sell jewelry. We sell lots of things. But as my dad always said, in Lake County, you have to be a juggler. Sometimes juggle on one foot.
Do you have a favorite customer?
Oh, that's hard. I like customers that have been in the store for most of their lives. I've had people come in and say, "I was a little kid when I first came in here, and I'm now 68 years old." And that's the things I like to hear. And they said, "We can't believe you're still here." And we have a lot of customers from the Bay Area. Some of them are pretty well-to-do customers in the Bay Area because the Bay Area has no more small business shops like ma and pa stores anymore because of maybe the Bay Area politics, maybe the way things are. Bay Area has grown so much. We have customers from San Francisco, Santa Clara County, Marin County, Sonoma County, Napa County, Solano County, Sacramento County, and I've had customers come as far as Kentucky.
Whoa.
Charlie Diener's mom moved to Kentucky in the late 70s, and she stayed my customer till I think she passed away.
Oh, okay.
Still doing mail, back and forth with the mail, fixing all her stuff, putting batteries in her watches.
Whoa.
So, yeah, so I mean, those are customers that are your favorites.
Mm-hmm. And what's your favorite part about owning a small business?
Coming and going when I want and not having to worry about getting laid off, which is big. And then I can bring my dog to work. He sits under my desk. I can be as sloppy as I want. I can eat at my desk. And I can kind of do what I want, and the customers don't care. I can listen to my music. I like classic rock. I keep that on at the shop 11 hours a day as I'm there. It's just, I try to make it fun. If you don't, it's no fun to be there.
So talk about being the vice president of the Historical Society and your involvement with the Eli Stage Stop.
Okay, I joined the Historical Society about 2002, approximately. A man named Randy Ridgel came to the judges' breakfast in Clearlake and was promoting to be memberships of the Lake County Historical Society. Judge Freeborn was holding the meetings, and anyway, so he joined, I joined, several of the community people in Clearlake joined. So one day I was looking through the Pomo Bulletin, which if you're a member, you would get back in those days, the Pomo Bulletin, and I was looking at the board of directors. District 2 was vacant. District 2 is the Clearlake, parts of Lower Lake, Clearlake Park, Spring Valley, Long Valley, Ogling Canyon, part of the Clearlake Oaks area. So Phil Smoley, realtor in Lakeport, was the president. So I called him, and he goes, well, I want you to come to a board meeting. So I did. And so he goes, well, it's November of 2012, and we're going to have a Thanksgiving dinner at the Grace Church in Kelseyville, and we're going to vote on you. So the whole society comes and has their Thanksgiving dinner. And they all voted me in to be a board member of District 2 for the Lake County Historical Society. So one of our presidents resigned. That was Marion Holden Reed in Kelseyville. She resigned about 3 years ago. And one of our board members was John Parker. And I've known him since he was part of the Anderson Marsh. In fact, John Parker, if it wasn't for him, there would be no Anderson Marsh State Park to this day. So anyhow, he became president. So who's going to be vice president? And I'm one of the only ones that still works in the Historical Society. So I don't have a lot of time, but I raised my hand to be the vice president. And that was probably in 2021. And John got sick in August, and not badly sick, but he came down with COVID, and he couldn't do one of the meetings. So I stepped in, and I did the meeting, and that worked out fine. It was smooth and easy. And anyway, but he's back, he's fine, so I'm still just the vice president.
What are some of the new exhibits at the Stage Stop?
Wow, the latest exhibit is we just opened the blacksmith shop, which is the Richard Paddock blacksmith shop. Elizabeth Paddock was one of your docents right here at this Schoolhouse Museum, and she's also one of my favorite customers. She can't do anything anymore, but anyway, she helped with money to open that blacksmith shop, which is now a working blacksmith shop. So when we have events there, we can show people how this was done back in the 1800s or before that and everything. Another attraction that we just got done restoring was the Kelseyville Jail. It's all restored. The original shingles are still on the roof. It has 2 cells in it. We reshingled the whole outside. We put a new base on it, and it's on display down the hill from the Eli house. And now we're receiving 20, mostly carriages, of restored wagons, some of which are originally from Lake County. And currently we're trying to figure out where to put them all. We can house about 6 or 7 of them, but there's still about 13 or more that we need to find places for. So we're working on doing fundraiser, which we need to build a place to put them to keep them from getting in the weather. Mm-hmm. So that's our current project right now.
So talk about helping with the Clearlake Car Show put on by the Lakeshore Lions Club.
Okay. We started that in 2000. The person that helped start that was Ron Coleman. He was a member of the Clearlake Car Club. So the Lions Club, we decided to take it over, the car show. I became the chairman of the car show probably in 2001. I did it all myself. I made the trophies. I made the dash plates. I did all the arranging to get the cars in. I signed them all up. The car owners were the judges, and at the end of the day, it was also held during the day, the 4th of July weekend, where it was right after the parade and barbecue on Austin's Park, and I did that until 2021, and we couldn't have it anymore because, 2020 we had COVID, and the laws where you just couldn't do that kind of thing anymore. So about 2022, the city of Clearlake decided to change the park around, and they redid the grass and fixed it to where there's a complete curb around the entire acreage of Austin's Park, and they don't want anything on it because of sprinklers and things like that. So the car show is done, and it was enough for me. That was almost 20 years of running a car show by myself, which was a lot. And we got a lot of customers and a lot of friends from the car shows. So the Clearlake Car Club helped a lot with it, which I'm still involved in the Clearlake Car Club. Not a lot, but some.
Do you own cars?
I have a 66 El Camino that one of my friends owned, and I was good friends with him. I used to ride in it. It was not in very good shape. And one day he was driving it on Highway 53, and the engine stopped on Highway 53 and 40th Avenue, probably in October of 1978. So it sat on the highway on 40th and 53. The windows were down, the wing windows were open, but nobody heard it. So after about 3 weeks, I gave him $200 for it. I towed it home with a rope, a horse rope.
Whoa.
And it had a blown up 283 engine in it. So I pulled the engine out under a oak tree and put a new engine in it, another engine. And I still have it to this day. It is blue. It's practically a show car now. It's had 5 different engines since I've owned it. It has a Muncie 4-speed transmission, which the transmission was used at the NCRA Lakeport Speedway for 3 years in a super stock. It still works fine. So I don't get to drive it too much, but it sits in my garage, and I get to look at it every night. And I do drive it about every 2 weeks just to keep the battery and everything going. So that's my hot rod.
And you were the former president of the Clearlake Chamber of Commerce, right?
Yes.
Talk about that.
Okay. When my dad passed away in 1995, my mom says, we gotta keep the business going since your dad, which was Gordon Ness Jewelers, we got to make sure that all our customers know we're going to still be around. So I joined the Chamber of Commerce, or I became a board member in 1985, 1985. and I was on the board of the Clearlake Chamber of Commerce. And we went through 2 presidents when I was there. And the last president, Muriel Kensler, which was a Kugelman.
Oh.
Yes, she was president. She was very shy. After about 2 months, she says, I can't do this. So guess who steps up to become president? So I served my year. We did worm races. We did Oktoberfest. We did lots of events. We would put floats in the Redbud Parade. We won first place. Voris Brumfield helped me win first place. Anyway, so I get done being president, and I'm thinking, good, I can step down. Well, we thought you were really good at being president, and we think that maybe you should do 1 more year. So Ruth Cartwright and Sharon Lusich were the ladies running the chamber office in those days, which was down on Austin's Park in a little cabin. So they talked me into it. So I did it. So I got to do it for 2 years, and then I said, that's it. Okay, so being president of the club, I'm 32 years old. I don't have to do this when I'm older. So then I'm in the Lakeshore Lions Club. So I get on the board of Lakeshore Lions Club. Guess what? In 1991, I became president of the Lakeshore Lions Club.
Oh.
So you can only do that 1 year, usually. So I did that for a year and stayed on the board for probably another 5 years on that, and just kind of started dwindling down a little bit and things I'm doing. So the car show was pretty much the last thing I did with the Lions Club. I still sell raffle tickets, and if they have a carnival, I can do that for them, but I'm not really a very active member in it currently.
So what's your favorite kind of music?
Well, I like classic rock. I grew up to the Doors, the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, anything that's British invasion. And I just, I've got a lot of music stored away at my house. I listen to vinyl records. I listen to CDs. I have cassettes that I made in the 70s and 80s that I have from old radio stations. I listen to the Coast Radio at Fort Bragg every day, and I know all the DJs. One of the DJs is named Kate, and she's married to the bass man of Van Morrison. I'm friends with both of them. It's an honor to know them and to actually meet and be friends with the guy that played Moon Dance for Van Morrison in 1978 with his big bass, and watch him play it in front of me. And then there was a drummer for the Byrds, and his name was Gene Parsons. He currently lives in Casper, just about 4 miles south of Fort Bragg. I'm currently friends with him, too. And he still loves music. He's got a huge banjo collection. And once in a while, we get over there and watch them play and participate with them a little bit. Currently, I don't play any instruments, but when I retire in a couple of years, I might just start.
And what concerts have you attended?
Oh my gosh. When I was going to Chico, I was leaving my uncle's house, and I see this great big cloud above the Chico State football field. Oh, wait a minute. Fleetwood Mac's here tonight. Guess what that cloud was? So anyway, I get to the fence of the football field, and some friends of mine that I worked with in Chico, hey, come sit in the back of our truck. We're having beer and things. We didn't have to pay. We're sitting outside, but you could see the band perfectly clear and all their lights. It was really fun. So then, okay, that ended, and then Sammy Hagar came to Chico State, and he performed when he was doing his album Red. Greg Kinn Band came and did some music at the football field. A band called, I have to think. Anyways, another band that was popular, Pablo Cruz, came, and they also played, and those are some of the bands I saw. Then in June of 1977, Oakland Coliseum had these things called Day on the Green. Okay, here comes Led Zeppelin. So open for Led Zeppelin. We get the tickets. They're $20. We drive down there, stayed with my friends in Benicia, get up about 2 in the morning to stand in line at the Coliseum's parking lot to get in. So we get in, and Rick Derringer, which currently plays for Edgar Winter, he opened the show, and he played a bunch of songs. Then after he got off stage, a band called Judas Priest came up to play. This is 1977.
Yeah.
These guys look like you wanted no part of them in a dark alley. They looked like that. So they were the first band right ahead of Led Zeppelin. So, okay, we're waiting for Zeppelin to come out. They didn't come out. We're waiting. Turns out that Robert Plant, the lead singer, his son died that day, and he had just got the phone call.
Oh, wow.
So Bill Graham is running the Days on the Green. He goes, you guys got to come out and play. I can't talk to these 100,000 people and tell them what's going on because I don't know what's going on. And they said, we're not sure we want to play. He goes, you have this contract, so you're going to play. So John Bonham, he was the drummer of Led Zeppelin. He gets up, and he's a big burly guy. So here's Bill Graham's men all standing there, and he's threatening them. John Bonham beat them all up except Bill Graham. So they did go out on stage, and they performed a beautiful show. It was The Song Remains the Same show. So does anybody remember laughter and all that during the Stairway to Heaven song? And so then we find out after the show what happened, and we understood why they didn't want to come out. Mm-hmm. So July of 1978, I buy $25 ticket, 5 shows. I don't remember the order they were all in. Aerosmith, AC/DC, Foreigner, Pat Travers, Van Halen. The last show was Aerosmith. About halfway through the show, I'm too pooped out. I got to go home to Clearlake Highlands and go to work in the morning. So we left. So that was it for me on Day on the Green. People walking around, tie sticks, get your tie sticks for sale. But the weirdest thing about it, about halfway through the shows, you got to use the bathroom. So you're on the green, so you're sitting where the A's would be playing on the green in the field. So you find your way to the bathroom. Okay, you're done. Then you look, where the heck was I sitting? Because this ocean of people. And you're like, then I spot one of my friends' eyeglasses. And so I'm not taking my eyes off of him, trying not to step on people as I'm walking back to where we were sitting. That was quite a little challenge, but it's stuff you'll never forget.
So how would you describe your personality?
Usually quiet, especially if I'm driving. I don't talk at all. Hardly at all. Whether I'm concentrated on my driving. I have to sell, so I talk when I'm selling something, but normally I'm not a big talker, really. I do like to tell stories a little bit, and I've found that out around people that are telling me, you're telling a lot of stories now. So anyway, that's kind of it.
So what are some of your greatest accomplishments?
Oh, probably just... I don't know. I have to stop and think of that. Probably just keeping the shop open for all these years, which is a big accomplishment. Living in the same house for 45 years in Burns Valley, which is in Clearlake. That's an accomplishment. The reason I'm still there is I have a great view. I can see Mount St. Helena from my house. I can see all the 4 Macamea mountains, which is Cobb and Siegler and Mount Hannah and Boggs. I can see the right peak of Canocti. And anyway, just accomplishing just being around still and staying in Clearlake Highlands. I could have been any place else. I don't know. I don't know. Just being around and just helping people with what their projects are and engraving and doing things that you learn every day what you're doing, basically. So accomplishments, the car show in Clearlake is a big deal. Gave me a lot of experience in that kind of thing, working with people, working with your friends. Accomplishment, building that El Camino from the ground up. It should have been hauled away to the junkyard when I first got it. Helping my son with his car. He did one too. And having great kids. Having great family. And just learning history of Lake County or history around a lot of places. Living in California.
What are you the most proud of that you've done in your life?
I couldn't answer that without having to think, and it probably have to rank up there with a whole lot of things, but I would just come back to saying being the father of my daughter Melody. That's every day, and she would say the same thing about me.
And what's something in your life you didn't do and you regret it now?
Sometimes joining the fire department, but really didn't have time for that. Maybe joining the Navy. I actually had a draft card for Vietnam in the 70s, and Richard Nixon was president, and he said if I get reelected for 1973, I'm going to end the Vietnam War. And I had my draft card. And he, sure enough, got elected for president, and he stopped the Vietnam War. And I probably shouldn't have tore up my draft card, but I did. I probably should have kept it with all the stuff I still have. Some of my accomplishments are keeping a lot of the things that I have when I was a little kid. Mm-hmm. I have a picture here. I may show you a little later of me in kindergarten in Burns Valley School in Clearlake Highlands. I'm wearing this little red tie, and I have these pink elephant cufflinks. I still have those. That was from 1962.
Whoa.
How I could keep that stuff after fires, after moving out of the house and all this. I still have all 6 of my Lower Lake yearbooks. Little things like that can be a big accomplishment. Saving my house from a wildland fire was 1992. Very hard. Charlie Diener helped put that out.
Oh, really?
Along with the house my daughter lives in just across the street.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So what kinds of hobbies do you have right now? What do you do when you're not working?
I have a nice big yard. I have 1.25 acres of walnuts. Half of it is basically the yard, which is a big lawn, flowers, plants. My deceased wife had a ton of plants. I'm still struggling to keep those alive, and we keep those in the greenhouse in the wintertime. So in the summertime, I put them all around the yard. I grow tomatoes. Just enjoy working in the yard, and when I'm not working on my car.
And what's the best advice you could give future generations?
Work hard. And be dedicated to your family.
Is there anything else you'd like to share?
Just be honest and help your community. And that's what I think I've done all my life. Still do.
Thank you so much for being here today and for sharing your stories.
Certainly. Yeah, I hope you liked it.
This is Muriel Ness, and back then she was Muriel Clark. She was a sergeant in the Marines and stationed in San Diego, California in World War II. This is Gordon Ness. He was a seaman in the Navy, and he was stationed mainly up in the Aleutian Islands, protecting the U.S. from the Japanese that were threatening to come down into Alaska. This is Theodore Clark. This is my great-grandfather, and this picture's taken probably in the late 1860s or early 1870s. He probably was about 29 years old in those days. And this is Olena and Andrew Ness, as they probably came from Norway. This might have been taken just about that time. And they came in 1903, so that could have been when this picture was taken. This is California Highways, August of 1934. Lake County was very, very obscured and not very easy to get to in a lot of places. So this is my Aunt Agnes Ness. She was Miss Western Yolo County. This picture was taken in August of 1934. And these ladies are representing towns in the Yolo County area. This is Governor Merriman. He's doing the ribbon cutting. And one of the ladies, I think it's this one, is Miss Behrens. She was from Kelseyville. She was Miss Lake County. And these ladies represent the yacht club of Clear Lake in that time. They're doing a ribbon cutting for what is now Highway 16, which is the Yolo Clear Lake Highway at that time. That's what it was called.
Okay.
And if you look, it's totally dirt road.
Yeah.
But you can see the highway is still that way. So the little Boy Scout camp is probably just down on the creek bed. It's still standing. It's a brick block rock building. Mm-hmm. And anyway, that's where that was taken.
How long has the Miss Lake County pageant been around?
The which?
The Miss Lake County pageant. Because what year was she in the pageant?
Well, that was 1934.
Okay.
So I don't know. That's a good question. That is a good question.
Huh.
The first Miss Lake County was Marion Goebel
Oh, okay.
in Lakeport. The house is still there on 11th Street. It has the old, has a little car sitting out in front of it, an old kind of a rat rod car.
Uh-huh.
That was her house.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Now the Curry furniture stores that were
In Clear Lake.
Clear Lake had one.
I remember that
Lakeport
one.
had the original one, 1912, and Ukiah just closed about 2 or 3 years ago on, right off of State Street. Mm-hmm. Forget which street it was. Anyway, those were the family stores.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she was the first Miss Lake County.
Cool.
She helped save the courthouse.
Oh.
She had a
really?
group of about 12 people, because they actually had to knock the windows out of it and they were going to tear it down.
Right.
And they said, hey. They stopped it. And
Oh, she was one of those people that saved it. Okay.
She was a good friend of ours. She bought a lot of Black Hills Gold from my dad.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, she'd come on Saturdays and bring her friends and her family and stuff. So,
Oh, neat.
yeah.
My grandmother, Olena Ness, she came to America in 1903 with my grandpa Andrew, and they were from Norway. Another picture of her, and this is my Aunt Tilly, which is no longer around. These kids are now all close to 80 years old.
Wow.
They're my cousins. This is my mom sitting on a cannon in front of Sutter's Fort back in the either the 30s or early 40s, and she might have been a soldier by the looks of her. This is my dad and Trixie, the dog that fell off the ladder.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know where this was taken. It's in a bar somewhere. I don't know whether it was the cobblestone in Clearlake Park. Could have been, I'm not sure. I'm trying to recognize the bar stools, which I don't know. This was a Christmas card from my parents, looks like before they had any kids.
Oh, okay.
So this was probably 1948 or 49, or maybe before that. And this is my parents, Muriel and Gordon.
What year was that taken?
By the looks of it, I would say 1975, 76, somewhere in there. This is my parents eating dinner, and this is a complimentary picture. This was in San Francisco. They love to eat in San Francisco. This is one of the very few pictures of a bunch of us. That's me right in the middle.
Oh, okay.
That's Kevin. And so my parents and my sister Lorraine, my brother Eric and Ron, and there's one more sibling that isn't born yet. And this is me probably in 1958 or 50, probably 1959.
Okay.
Okay. This picture, this is a 65 Dodge Polara. This picture was taken at Whiskeytown Lake, which is just west of Redding, California. And this is probably one of the only pictures of all 7 of us, of my dad, mom, and siblings, taken on the house on Old 53 in Clearlake. This is me graduating from kindergarten in 1962 in Burns Valley School. Mary Hale was my principal. She was married to Babe Hale, which was the first deputy sheriff that wore a uniform in Lake County, and his family was one of the first families to settle in Clearlake Highlands. This is also the house on Old 53. This is me and my younger brother Ron, and that's me laying down. This is on the house, so the egg ranch is over here, and the biggest oak tree in Burns Valley is right over next to us. And so that was at the house. This is me as a baby, and I don't look real happy for some reason. I don't know why. And this is Trixie. The dogs always seem to get into the picture. So my older sister Lorraine and Eric. And that's me here. And this was probably on the front yard of the old house.
What are you holding?
Oh gosh, I don't know.
Is it a fish?
Oh, I bet it is. Yeah, it's a carp.
Okay.
It's a carp I caught in Austin's Beach.
Cool.
Back then, I didn't have a reel. I had a pole with a line on it, didn't have a reel. That's how it was back then.
Whoa.
You caught carp and crappie. Bass, you couldn't catch them. They just weren't here. Not like they are now. This was a camping picture. That is a 68 Dodge 440 Coronet. That was our 59 Aristocrat. And I don't know whether that's me standing there by the old umbrella tent, World War II tent, and I'm not sure where this was. This picture here was taken about 6 years ago. There's Bandit, Karen, my wife, my son-in-law Dean, he's now the Lake County Sheriff Head Detective. My daughter Melody, she's the ER nurse and oncology, not oncology, but she's the infectious disease prevention officer of Adventist Health. That's me, of course. My grandson, Colt. My granddaughter, Ruby. My oldest granddaughter, Tori. And my granddaughter, Lindley. Lindley was named after her grandmother's middle names. Karen Lynn Ness, and her other grandma was Lee. So that's how she got her name. This is my son Bryce. He's now the athletic director for Canocti Unified School District. So this is Wayne Yankee. He is now a head nurse at Kaiser. This is Erin, my stepdaughter, and she's an oncology nurse at Kaiser. And this is one of their sons, one of his sons.
Okay.
So this is on the front porch of my house. So there's now 2 more kids. So Mackenzie and Addie were born after that. So
Okay.
this is one of my favorite pictures. She's out of the picture now. Her and Bryce are no longer together.
Oh, okay.
That was Anna. So he's currently married to somebody else, and she's now an English. His new wife is an English teacher at Lower Lake High School.
Cool.
So I've got kids that have, I should say one of my accomplishments are my kids.
Okay, so that's all of them. Okay, perfect.